discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy. No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher. Okay, so I'm guessing that didn't work for you guys. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, works.
I hear you. Yeah, but the intro dropped out like halfway through.
Well, that always does that, especially if you're on a phone. It's just the noise gate on my mic. So anyway, you're good to go. Sorry.
Okay. So what, are we going to hear the intro music?
Yeah, I've already heard the intro music, and I'm watching the video that was posted on X.
Yeah, it's been playing. I don't know, but anyway.
Oh, so what, are we hot and live right now?
Yeah, that was kind of why I was double checking. You could hear me.
Jeez, this is a whole night of screw ups.
Hang on. Let me fix this for the podcast. Do your intro on 3, 2, 1, and I'll clean it. 3, 2, 1, and I'll clean it up.
Welcome to Thursday night, everyone. This is your early introduction to the weekend. This is Disasters in the Making, and apparently we're living up to that first word tonight with the tech issues, but we are now running. So anybody that's new to the game here, what we do is every 2 weeks focus on a bad film and tie it into either something in theaters, something in the news, or in this case, this week, something that we've been anticipating. And yes, I said we, because joining me here in studio is ScreenRant.com's own Paul Young. What's going on, Paul?
What's up, buddy? I heard you just got in from a really long trip.
I came in hot, as they say. I am still kicking the manure off of my boots in order to do the show. I think it's leading to most of the tech problems too, because I think my computer's still on Texas time, but we're ready to go live.
The manure from your boot was from the movie, wasn't even from the state.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. I think wearing shit kickers was appropriate for this one. Although I got to throw a caveat out there. I kind of like this one. I kind of dug it. I enjoyed
this one. You did? This is the one?
Well, I'll say this. I came into this with extremely, very low expectations, and I was actually met with, you know what? This doesn't exactly blow walnuts like I thought it would. So maybe, I'm grading on a curve a bit. But yeah, I thought for what it was.
Oh man, everything about this was like garbage.
Well,
it was all garbage. It was not good at all. But hey, look!
You've been cinematic award handed out for this one.
You have been pumping up this movie for months. You've been pimping it out, telling us all about it. Yeah, and I have been waiting for it. And earlier in the week, I was like, "Do you realize that Popeye the Slayer Man is on Prime for $6?" And you're like, "Well, I guess we found our movie." Like, I guess we did.
Mm-hmm.
And many people don't know.
On our radar for some time. We've been anticipating this one. At least I should say I have, because when we heard about it, I got excited. I was very excited, and I think it lived up to my hype. I'll say that, my hype. as qualifying as that is.
Yes, very much so. Your hype, not so much anybody else. The opening theme song there was it the Alphabet? Is it the man from Alphabet? The man from Alphabet's the name of the group, and it's called Popeye the Slayer Man theme song. Sailor to Slayer,
Mm-hmm.
Sailor to Slayer. Dude, they didn't just make a song for this movie; they made a video to go with it.
Yes, one that pretty much revealed all the good parts of the film, I'll say.
Yeah, like the ending.
Yeah,
The best
so
part. That was the best part of this movie, the ending.
probably the best way to introduce this is in this fashion. The reason we kind of chose this one, I should say I chose it, I'll take full credit here, is in the last, year or two, we have been seeing quite a few of these type of movies come up. The type being intellectual property that falls into the public domain. And therefore, schlocky horror producers said, hey, wait a second, we don't have to pay for the rights to this, so let's do it. And we have, as a result, seen the Winnie the Pooh horror movie.
Yeah, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Willie.
That one came out
Steamboat
first.
Willie now has a horror one.
Screamboat.
And yeah,
Piglet.
it's always horror.
Yeah, Piglet has one that comes out this year. It's just called Piglet. Have you seen anything about that?
I've heard it was something put into production. I've not seen any details, however.
Yeah, it's already got an IMDb rating of 2.6, which is a full point higher than Snow White.
Yeah, that's about as qualifying an endorsement as you can get.
Yeah, I will say that Screamboat looks. So, did you watch the trailer for Screamboat? I sent it to you. I texted it to you. I don't know if you watched it or not.
I didn't get a chance to because I had spotty Wi-Fi, and then once I did get good Wi-Fi, I had to watch the film, so I haven't had a chance to do it yet.
So, it's Steamboat Willie is what they've done. They've taken Steamboat Willie and they've made a movie out of it called Screamboat, and it's supposed to be the rat comes to life and goes on a murderous rampage, killing people on the Staten Island ferry. And it's from the guys who made Terrifier 2 and 3, and I guess the Terrifier series has got a pretty good following. And so, kind of has some high expectations here. But what they've done is they have made, instead of a CGI rat that is like on the loose, they've put somebody in a suit. There's someone in a suit playing this rat, and they've given him a harpoon. It looks absolutely nuts and ridiculous. Like, what's the point? He looks like a cat, Dr. Seuss's Cat in the Hat with Mike Myers, but with mange. Did we lose you, Brad? Rick, did we lose him? Well, I think we lost him.
Okay, so I think that fixed everything, hopefully. And Paul's back too.
All right. Yeah, he said he's backstage.
Yeah, it just reconnected, so I was just able to add him back in. So
Cool. Let me know when we're back on with the fans.
we officially
If we
are
have any.
as of now.
Oh, we're back now. All
Yeah.
the way on.
Yeah,
And Paul's there too.
Yeah, technically technically they never left because the feed never died. It just ended on my side.
Oh, we died. Got it.
Yeah.
So is Paul online now?
He's
right here.
here.
I'm not hearing him.
I can hear you. Sound better than you did before. Can you hear me, Rick?
Oh, and you sound worse. I can barely hear you. Or not at all.
How about now?
There you go. You're coming in faint, but now you're clear at least. I can hear you. Okay.
All right, here we go.
Let's try this from Jump Street. Okay, so this week's show.
The
whole purpose of this is there's a preponderance of very, very old intellectual property going into the public domain, and so schlocky horror directors, producers, and writers are jumping ship and nabbing these characters because I guess horror is the only thing you can do with them. It's in the minds of these creatives, and thus we've gotten our Winnie the Pooh slasher. And
it's the easiest thing to do with them.
Well, they're budget friendly. Let's face it. Horror is budget friendly. I guess maybe that's the excuse.
Well,
but
and with horror, especially B horror, you don't need a good script. You don't need good actors. You can get cheap SAG actors that are just trying to, make their way through life.
Yeah, but see now, Paul, you're part of the problem.
I always am.
Because you're telling them they don't need a script, and let me tell you, they do. That's almost always the problem with these things. A script is usually helpful in these enterprises, and in the movie we're dealing with tonight, yes, definitely the case. So, and it's probably because they can do it on the cheap, do it on the quick, pump these out while it's a hot property and before anybody else does. So yes, horror is the way to go with these things. Now, I will say this, with the others I've seen, it is like bargain basement scripts, production values, filming, acting, all of it is beyond subpar, lower than subpar. And I think that's kind of why I said I enjoyed this one, is because there was a little bit of quality that I wasn't expecting. I mean, for one,
the story was dumb.
Even though this was shot in an abandoned factory, it was pretty good visuals, I'll say. The cinematography wasn't bad at all.
No, it was all right. And I mean, they did the classic B horror film. They made everything around it dark so they didn't have to show that they were on a set or, expand their set out. And they do that for a lot of movies. They'll set it up in a dark area so they don't have to show all the other stuff and then put set dressing on it and increase the budget by a lot.
True. And plus, if you're in a retrograde factory that hasn't been online for 20 years, you don't want all the background stuff visually. So yeah, shadows come into play, but the fact that they actually used some good lighting and made it at least seem atmospheric, I'll give them some credit for that. And I like the way they lit the character, because a lot of times when he came on screen, and he was back and overhead lit, so he was kind of appearing in this nimbus and shadowy look about him, but he had a kind of a halo effect. It was pretty creepy for what they were going for. I'm going to applaud him for it. I was going to say, damn, I was expecting far less. You guys actually put a little bit of effort into this, so I appreciate that.
Well, and he did, the main character did look absolutely ridiculous, right? I mean, he looked dumb. Let's just be honest. He just looked stupid.
Well, he was extremely exaggerated. I dare say cartoonish in appearance, but I also think the effect worked. I mean, the face was very heavily prosthetic, and he's got these bulbous forearms that are basically of Popeye cartoon stature. But I think it worked. I liked it.
They had a good base.
I mean,
the guy that played him, Jason Robert Stevens. If you go and find a picture of him on his IMDb page, I mean, he's a jacked dude. So they started with a good base. So it wasn't like they had some sort of thin act in there and they were just kind of putting him in a suit. You know, they built around him. So.
No, he's a professional wrestler, maybe lower tier, but he's he's got the proper build for it. So he carried himself well. I think what I liked was at least with the setup, they did something with the core material as opposed to just saying Popeye slasher, go with it. I mean, they put some effort in. So the whole premise here is that there's a haunted or I guess stalked spinach canning factory, and he's looming through it all, and is basically risen to the level of what local mythology. Everybody talks about, quote, the Sailor Man in ominous terms.
And what was that one dude's name in the bar? Is it Bert?
Oh,
Bernie.
The old the cranky guy that knows all the
Bernie.
That's kind of a horror trope, isn't it?
Yeah, and I kind of laugh when he's like, "Oh, everybody knows he's dressed in his finest Maine, thick wool sweater and hat, a beanie cap."
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Oh yes, anybody who goes into the thing, they say they never come out." And the guy's like, "Shut up, Bertie." And the guy just goes, "Okay," and just turns around. Like I had actual moments that made it funny.
Yeah, and it's he was basically playing the role where it's a common trope in horror when you have a group of people going into an area they shouldn't. There's always that one grizzled local who gives them the warnings. No, you shouldn't go into the woods. You shouldn't go into the hollows or wherever it is. And then the people always discount them as like, oh, yeah, you codger. Who listens to that drunken fool? And then they promptly go and get killed by the very means he warned them about. It's just kind of a thing you got to do in horror at times. So the part I love, though, like you said, well, he's just in that heavy cable knit sweater and the knit cap. He's in sailor gear, except, dude, you're in a bar. Right. You can dress in street clothes here. You don't have to be in character. But you're in a movie. You have to be in character.
I will say that they padded the script with a few too many characters. I think you could have just stuck with basically the guys making the movie, and then the people he brings in to make the found footage kind of film, or ghost, what is this, ghost finder films that they make with people on like Discovery Channel and that kind of crap, haunted house kind of nonsense. And I think they could have just stuck to that and brought all those characters in that way. Introducing the real estate agent and the guy that was trying to sell the property didn't make much sense to me in the overall story. It didn't serve a purpose other than to give him more people to kill. So I think it's a little bit of a bloat when it came to the story in that part.
I'll say this. I think they brought in a lot of elements that seemed to work and that were good in nature, but didn't explore them properly. I thought that they set a few things up in good fashion that would work and then didn't use them to an effect where they would work for some reason. So yeah, like the developer comes in and he's looking around. It's like, I'm going to tear this down and put up condos and such. But this would serve as motivation for the killing. They didn't really explore it. The realtors we're going to get into, she was playing a role and then it was all dropped. The spinach aspect and why the factory closed down. Okay, sounds pretty interesting, but they never really carried it through. And it's like, damn, it's like I'm trying to like your movie and you're giving me these pieces. It's like they put all the ingredients on the plate, but they didn't properly cook them. So there's your issue. If a little more thought went into the script instead of speed, we'd be there.
Well, and I think it was bloated. The script was just bloated with that extra character stuff. And
we'll explain that.
They could have made this more of an anthology giving him more of a background story on. You could have actually made this the beginning of a three-part series because you could have easily made Popeye the Slayer Man 2 and 3, and then that cost much more money. And the first one is all about how he becomes the Slayer Man. He's on the boat with Bernie. It's him and Bernie, and he ends up going mad and killing all the people on the boat. And you get an idea of what he is, because they set the girl up as and you saw that it was telegraphed way early on about her wanting to be there.
Mm-hmm.
But the time frame and what he's wearing matches nothing of her age. She's what, all of no more than 30, but they're making a college thing, so she's probably in her mid-20s as a character, and he's dressing like he's from the 30s. You know what I mean? A 30s.
Oh yeah, he has. He's definitely got that throwback, dare I even say, steamboat sailing attire. Because Popeye was created in the 1920s, so he was adorned in 1920 sailing regalia for that period.
Right.
He's still wearing it today.
Yeah, and he's got multiple outfits. Now, I'll give them credit for creating a pretty decent lair. They gave him a pretty cool lair. You know what I mean? Like there's just stuff around that he would have that made sense for the character. So I'll give him credit on that. Excuse me. I give him credit for attempting to bring in some bad guy fodder for him to destroy. The bad guys they brought in were dumb. That boyfriend is stupid. His two little counterparts were stupid. I don't know.
Yeah, they were basically just set up as fodder. All that was. These are people you intentionally hate and are intentionally dispatched in relatively quick fashion, but they don't. As we'll get into, they don't use what they have appropriately, and they put in a lot of elements they didn't have to. Now, problems when you start with a problematic base material.
Now let's give them some credit for including references back to the original character and the original stuff, like the scene in the bar where the camera kind of pans in from up top and comes in as the main characters are entering the bar from the front, and the camera pans over to the bartender and he says, "Look, I've told you before, we don't serve hamburgers at this bar." And the guy turns around and goes, "Fine." He turns around and just ambles off. It was a pretty funny reference, tongue-in-cheek reference to Wimpy about always looking for burgers and wanting to pay you, Thursday. I never saw a reference to Bluto, but there's a pretty good there's a directly in your face reference to olive oil, straight up spelled her name. So give them some credit for trying and not just taking the character and doing something really, really stupid with it. They at least try to keep it in, I don't know, not in house, but in story.
They made some efforts. They just didn't really follow through with them, and I think it was because this was such a rush production. That's my guess.
But they couldn't have taken more than less than 3 weeks, 4 weeks to film this.
Yeah, and I'm even thinking just in crafting the script, it was pretty much a post-it notes screenplay. We need this, we got to hit this mark, we got to use this character, we got to reference that, and let's build a story around those elements. And they didn't flesh anything out appropriately, and they should have, and it would have been so much better, I think. But we'll pick those apart going forward. So we start off with 3 complete strangers who have no bearing on the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
A girl is running away from 2 guys. And they don't even really clearly explain what the hell's going on here. So she's running away from them. She gets to this factory. A door is chained locked. She uses the rock to bust it open to get inside to safety. The guys chase her in or are scared. And then this imposing figure comes out of the shadows. This would be our Popeye, the Slayer Man. So we get into the killing pretty quick. You're not even going to be halfway through your tub of popcorn before you start to see first signs of blood. So he descends on the two attackers, grabs one, carries him off in the shadow, and then they find him vivisected on the floor. Legs gone, entrails asunder.
Everywhere.
Pretty brutal. And then the second guy is set upon. His head gets crushed between two hands, probably vice-like because of the very bulbous forearms on the killing character. I'm going to say NFL league official football-sized forearms by minimum standards.
Well, and his go-to move is the wrist snap. Did you notice that?
Yeah, we had a few of those throughout the film.
Yeah, that's his go-to
I think
move.
3 different people meet. Yeah, we see 3 people meet a grisly arm wrist break for some reason. I think maybe because that they could fabricate that special effect on the quick, maybe.
That's like his Steven Seagal move. Snap and walk away.
Well, he learned that on the high seas, when he was plying his trade on his tramp steamer out in Taiwan. They taught him that move, so you got to go to it.
Well, he's got those forearms from tying knots.
I guess so. Pulling up nets on a regular. That's the way that works out. So he kills the 2 guys, and then the girl starts screaming, and he just the camera zooms in on her as she screams, cut to credits. So we have to assume she died too. So he's not a good guy.
For sure he was not going to kill her. Because, sometimes they'll say, oh, he's a benevolent haunting ghost, murderous ghost. And it's like, oh, she's being raped or she's going to, she's being threatened. It turns out she was, I guess, a piece of crap too. And she stole something from those guys, not the other way around. So he ended up just, doing her in at some point.
I hadn't actually researched that part because I was very curious as to why were these people on my screen? What am I carrying? Oh, she stole their cocaine, their drug dealers. They were meeting out in immediate justice, and then they all 3 went to the wrong place where Popeye descends on them.
Right.
So, okay, they all deserved it. There you go. Well, now we cut to an extremely generic college campus. I'm pretty much assuming it was college. Did they even give us a name of the school? I don't remember seeing that.
Not really.
It's just like they're not really intent on placing us in any kind of tangible landscape. Like I don't even know the name of the town they were in. They allude to certain parts of it, over by the wharf, down by the docks, but we don't get any street names, city names, county, nothing. So we're just kind of there, someplace, live with it, go with it. We meet very ordinary, plain students that are not remarkable, not even necessarily attractive or anything of the sort, just kind of like they showed up for the audition. Let's give them a role. One of them is going to be shooting a documentary about the mythology of the Sailor Man and the abandoned spinach canning factory, and is convinced this is going to take him to Sundance. I've my own bell. I've been to Sundance. It would strike me as festival material.
You'd almost do better if they had and they wouldn't have gotten the people to do this, but it would have been better if these were just weird teenagers that were kind of urban exploring. Or better yet, you could have made these urban explorers. I don't know if you've ever seen those urban exploring websites or YouTube channels. The guys just kind of wander from abandoned place like malls and office buildings and dilapidated, run down. They've been
sure.
Those guys. There's a YouTube channel, and I forget what their name is, but they've been here in Jacksonville twice to look at the old JEA building, and then to be inside the old public school. My dad went to school when he was in elementary school. It's been run down and abandoned, has tunnels, and they're mostly filled with water now. But yeah, they could have turned them into urban explorers and let those guys kind of wander the whole place, film in and getting caught. You could even do part of this as found footage, and I don't think I would have been upset at that. I think it would have made sense.
Yeah, and they kind of drifted towards that in certain scenes, but they never really fully brought that out either. It was just basically their excuse for being there.
Well, when they went to he's using a handy cam, like a Sony handy cam, and that's not what these people are. He's not going to film a movie using a Sony handy cam. He's going to have some sort of rig that he can put his iPhone in because he's going to save money, and the screen's not going to say battery life at half. It's not going to have that stupid symbol like it did back in the 90s over the corner. It says recording and battery and then a tape symbol. That's just kind of silly.
Well, he was also trying to use trail hunting cams positioned throughout the factory, and those somehow are sending images back to a central computer setup that he was not operating.
Yeah, in real time.
So he's got the computer set up. He's got 4 screens on it for all his various cameras, but he's not the one operating it. It's the bartender he hauled out that day. And she could give 2 craps about this whole thing. She's on her phone the entire time.
I was going to say, didn't she just meet him?
Well, it was because he talked about her joining her early on.
Yeah, they just kind of walk into the bar, and that's where they met each other. I don't think they'd seen each other.
No, they were friends ahead of time, but she didn't have like any prior coaching. Just like, hey, we're going to go do this. You want to join me? Sure. That was about it. And he puts her in charge of all of the intelligence gathering somehow. Not a fantastic idea, director. You're not going to go to Sundance on this one. But before they do that, we get met with the super powerful real estate magnate of this city. We know this because he's the only character that wears a necktie. He's super important. And he's there with a diminutive real estate agent. And he's talking about, I don't know, bringing the factory back to life in some capacity, but it's a big land grab. And from this point on, we get told repeatedly in this movie, the factory shut down 20 years ago, as if that's a valid and important detail. 20 years ago. Factory shut down 20 years ago. It was 20 years ago the factory shut down. Well, why do I care? Just close down. It's places run down. I get it. But they hammered that one home. So he's looking to make massive renovations to the location, and this upsets our killer because he's situated in a spinach factory.
And I guess he's supposed to be, I don't know, is he supposed to be like the guardian of the place? Is he like, they kind of go back and forth between whether he's a ghost and he's forced to haunt this place, or he's been cursed and he's not allowed to leave this place, and that he's actually alive. Because a ghost doesn't need to eat spinach.
Yeah, pretty much he's a squatter.
Yeah, there you go, squatter.
What we gather, I mean, by the end of the movie, that's all they give us is that he lives there, because we find, as you said, his lair, that other trope. So he's just there eating the spinach. And we're going to explain in a few moments how that's the problem. So
because spinach is disgusting. Oh, wait. Sorry. My bad.
Oh, it gets even worse than that, Rick.
Hey, while I'm interrupting, hey, Paul, can you check your gain settings we were messing with earlier? Because everybody's complaining that you're really quiet. I've got you maxed out everywhere I can, and they can still barely hear you.
What? Hold on. Let me look.
I tried to message you, but you didn't see either one of them, so now I'm doing it this way.
All right. I haven't really
Well,
changed.
in the meantime, our real estate agent starts poking around a little bit, and she bumps into a lurking, hulking figure. But it ain't Popeye. It's the, I guess, the bodyguard of the land developer. Because when you go to an abandoned factory, that's one thing you need is muscle and protection.
Well,
And,
yeah.
and then he leaves them behind and says, I want you to go around and clear out the vagrants. Get rid of anybody that's in here. Which means eventually he encounters Popeye. And Popeye renders him pretty easily and quickly. Brief fist fight and then a foot to a skull crushing conclusion right there on screen. Damn. So the
What I didn't
brutality
understand, well, what didn't make much sense to me was the fact that this guy has been wandering this factory for a while. The bouncer or the security guard. So it's like he's been there and that's his job, but he's never seen Popeye prior to this. Like he's just literally walking from room to room, like he's been there all the time. Like he knows where he's going. He's not lost at all.
Right. It's one of the many mysteries in this endeavor. So we just have to run with it. Sure, he's familiar with the place and at the same time naive about what's going on there. But he encounters Popeye, but not for long. The guy's crushed. So then the first crew are, I guess, he's our lead actor, our lead character. The filmmaker himself is Dexter. How's that for a leading man? Dexter is leading everything. He's got a crush on a girl by the name of Olivia. Note that name, Olivia.
Yep.
And she's going along with this just because, like, Dexter clearly has a crush on her. He's tongue-tied, doesn't know how to talk to her exactly. And the whole time she's like, sure, I'll go to the haunted factory where murder takes place. No problem.
On my way.
Which really should kind of send up smoke signals there, Dexter, but he doesn't strike me as a very attuned individual. So he's just like, the cute girl likes me and he's going with. Cool. There's his good friend, Katie, and she's got a crush on a guy named Seth, and Dexter has finagled both of them to join his crew by telling the other one's involved. So Seth is supposed to be a lady killer. Katie knows this and still is into him, and so they join, all while contributing next to nothing to the production. I have no idea why they were involved.
And then he like tell one of the girls he told the bartender girl, just stay here.
Yeah, she was in charge of the video. And she had no training on it and didn't give a damn about it. She didn't watch the cameras at all the whole time.
Not a clue.
And so the five of them show up at the factory. The doors chain shut, and basically Dexter gives up. He's like, oh, the door's locked. Oh, well, I guess I can't shoot my dream movie. One of them even mocks him and says, well, what'd you expect? The doors to be open? He's like, well, yeah. And they weren't, and so his movie dream dies right there on the spot. Thank goodness Olivia's there, though. Because she could pick locks. That's her specialty in this movie.
Yeah, that's what she did. Well, not just that. So before we leave the bar, her boyfriend walks in, and he's just like a tool, right? It's a good girls like the bad boys tool. And he's such a tool that he has tool friends, and then those tool friends come over and start basically eyeball raping her right there at the bar, to the point where she's like, "Can you tell your friends to stop eyeballing me?" He's like, "Yeah." I mean, like, how much of a leader is he to his friends that they'd immediately walk over to their leader's girl and start like hitting on her?
Well, no, I think they were eye banging Olivia.
Were they eye
And
banging Olivia? They weren't eye banging the.
yeah, because they got in there and Joey, that's our heavy. That cracks me up. Joey is our tough guy. Not Joe, not Joseph. Joey.
Joey.
And he, manhandles Katie and, tells her all the time, "You're going to answer your phone when I call and you do what I say because I'm an asshole and you love me." But then they meet Olivia and the two guys are just like, "So you didn't give me your name?" And she's like, "Yeah, I know." So they're tools, but Joey is convinced that Dexter wants to sleep with Katie, Joey's girlfriend, the bartender, for no discernible reason, because Dexter is like a non-entity. He tongue-tied, plus he's into Olivia, but Joey is just convinced they're going to sleep together. This is only being done for the sake of bringing Joey to the factory later. That's it.
Right.
But hey, we'll go with it. Drama. But she goes off with them to film the documentary. Joey and his buddies are left sitting in the bar stewing about this. "I know he's screwing my girlfriend. I know." Why? What are you doing? But they get to the factory. Olivia breaks them in, thankfully. They start setting the equipment up, and then Dexter says the first thing you have to do in a horror movie, everybody split up.
Yeah. And then he immediately gets called out on it. "Did you just tell us to come into an abandoned, haunted canning factory and then tell us to split up?" She goes, "I'm not doing that."
And then says, "Well, we got to set our cameras up in different locations and explore." So she says, "Okay. I refuse to do that." "Yeah, but I need you to." "All right, I'm going to do that." There's our drama.
I'm in.
So they start basically, wandering around a factory that the whole time I'm thinking about this, they're going there at night. What are they going to do about lighting? And this was like, you could tell the screenwriter was like, "Oh crap. I'm just going to have Dexter say he turned the power on." Well, that works.
It just randomly find power somewhere, turn it on to the old factory. He's like, "Oh yeah, and he literally just plugs like a cord into a wall outlet that is also attached to a light switch. Do they make those? They must have. I doubt they've custom made a light switch with an outlet on it. I've just never seen one. Certainly not seen one up high near where you would normally put your hand when you come into a room.
Well, this happened to work. It just, you could definitely tell somebody was like, "Hey, yeah, what do we do?" Because this place, if I recall correctly, has been closed down for 20 years, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, how was there even power being sent to this building?
Who's paying the bill?
Never 2 decades, and they still can have power if you know the right switch. There's one switch, but it turns on the whole factory, so everything's good. Now, I forgot one crucial detail, and I should be forgiven on this one, Paul, because the screenwriter forgot this as well later. But when the realtor bumped into the bodyguard earlier, she did a little bit of a jump scare, and a file flew out of her purse underneath some packing, out of sight.
Yeah,
it's gone.
This was a man's best friend moment where, remember when we talked about Man's Best Friend a few weeks ago, a few shows ago, where they're in the laboratory and they bump into somebody and she drops a videotape and it goes down and falls underneath a little riser box and nobody sees it. Same situation happened here.
Yeah, same thing. The file disappears, and this is done for one reason and one reason alone, and that is to bring the real estate agent back that evening to come find the file that she doesn't have. And the way it's set up is like, this is crucial to the plot. This file is, oh man, once they get a hold of this file, changes everything. Except nobody ever gets a hold of it. She picks it up.
Yeah.
Popeye comes in. She runs away, gets her hair caught in the door, because that happens in real life all the time.
No, it wasn't just caught in the door, right? She's pushing away what appeared to be. So she's running. She gets to this closed door and is trying to push against it. But on the other side of a door is a cardboard box with what appears to be an empty piece of aluminum. So I'm not sure how strong this lady is, but she can't push the door open. And when she finally gets it open, she starts squeezing through. Now, they create a pretty good amount of drama here, right? You know, Popeye doesn't run. It's probably to his detriment. He's more of a silent, continuous stalker like Jason or Michael Myers.
Yes, he's a Jason killer.
Yeah,
Everybody runs away at full speed, and he lumbers along and catches up to them wherever they're at.
right. It's a turtle and hare type of situation. And so she is trying to get through the door, and they create actually a pretty fairly decent amount of tension here, because you can tell he's getting almost up to her, and she just barely makes it to the door, and she shuts the door, but somehow he manages to grab a handful of her hair and then rips her whole scalp off through the door.
Yeah, and it wasn't like a few strands or anything. She's got shoulder length, probably longer than shoulder length hair. It looked like half her mane got stuck in that door. Like, yeah. She had to have had her head tilted back and leaning against it to close the door for that to happen. He's got a full fist of her hair and can pull it through the door to the point of scalping her. And the amount of blood that pours out of her hair being peeled back was pretty damn impressive, I got to say.
Now, look, they didn't need to do that. She could have made it safely through the door. Then he could have just punched his forearms through the door and grabbed a handful of her hair and then just ripped it off of her head. That at least would have been a kill that made sense.
Yeah, this did not. Because as her mane of hair is stuck in the door, it prevented her from getting away, but he was still able to pull the hair through on his side.
Right. And then he still ripped the door open anyway. Or he punched it open or kicked it open or something.
I'm going to do the one thing most filmmakers hate, and that's invoke physics.
Uh-oh.
If she was stuck because of her hair in the door, there's no way he could pull the hair back towards him through the same door. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's either stuck or it's not stuck.
I'm just going by the rules they're presenting in their environment. That's all I'm doing. But there we go.
Her whole kill, though, because she wasn't dead. This didn't kill her. She just got scalped.
But it ends up making her collapse to the point that he tosses her over his shoulder and then tosses her into a can crushing machine.
Is that what that was?
I think so. This was a rather disappointing kill.
Yeah, I didn't like this one.
Like we have to see her hunched in this closed location. It wasn't really clear what's going on. They kept doing a close-up on some metal beams that were allegedly coming down very slowly as he turns the machine on, and then all he does is look down and we see a small pool of blood appear.
It wasn't even blood. It looked like tomato sauce. That whole kill would have been better if he had tossed her into the canning machine.
We'll see.
Like that kill scene from The Kingsman. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, just some unexplored avenues they could have done here that were story specific. Maybe have her trussed up in a labeling machine and she gets covered with spinach labels and suffocates or chokes or something like that. Have Popeye brand killing is what I'm saying here. Give us something, but no, not to be.
No, this was probably the most uninspired death in the film. I mean, there's plenty of uninspired things happening, but this was the one that was it felt the laziest.
No, actually, I take exception with some other upcoming that I'll talk about, but we have to get back to the rest of our crew, the youngins that are in this factory, and they're going all over the place. Now, Dexter is supposedly the filmmaker, and he's got these trail cams, and he's like, okay, this looks like a good spot. And then he picks up a trail cam and just slaps it on the wall, and that's it. Like, doesn't position it, doesn't look for best angle. It's just like, blam, it sticks with bubble gum or something. And it's okay, there we go. Camera's up. Moving on. And then he and Olivia have a deep conversation about her past. And I got to tell you, Paul, none of this struck me as random. It seemed kind of vital.
Yes, I would agree with you.
I mean, it wasn't like they're walking through the hallways and having a conversation. You know, like, hey, by the way, where'd you come from? Hey, what's up? You know, no, this is like a heart-pouring moment. She's just unloads her entire backstory. Well, you see, I was an orphan. I went through a lot of foster homes. High school wasn't very important to me. But all of this, it's like, why do we care about this girl named Olivia? And all of this is vital. That I don't know who my parents are, so I came back to this city in order to find out what was the backstory of the parents. And it's like, they couldn't telegraph this anymore. Okay, we get it. It's Popeye's kid. Olive oil, Olivia. So yeah, it wasn't veiled like, no, it was pretty much like it's his kid.
But didn't they? And she picks up there's a picture of them all together, and she says, "Do you think she's pretty?" Or some. It's a really weird statement. Do you remember what she said?
Well, it was this before or after they got into the filing cabinet?
This was after. This is when they get into the lair,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So first off, they're exploring the factory, and they're like, "Oh, up there's the offices. This will be key." So they do get up there. Why any of this would be left behind makes no sense, but they're looking through all the files left on desk, and they said, "This filing cabinet's locked. There's only one reason you lock a filing cabinet." Turns out the reason is they don't want people to get into it. That means there's something in there. Thankfully, Olivia's with us with her lock picking skills and her dexterity with a paperclip gets them into the files.
Olivia is like a toddler. She can do anything.
They should have child-proofed these offices. But all kinds of incriminating information is in there. There were problems at the factory. And the reason it shut down 20 years ago, turns out that the spinach was tainted. There was a problem with the spinach.
Bad spinach.
They had to shut down.
They have, what is it?
And then later, I don't think they went into that much detail because I don't think listeria glows green in the dark.
You've clearly never had listeria.
I've not actually, no. I have it in my Amazon lineup, but I haven't, actually gone to the shopping cart with it. So maybe I should, just so I know what I'm talking about. Got to be informed for this particular program. But they come to find out there's a big scandal now. They shut down for these reasons. Ooh. Next, they end up in the lair. And this is after Joey and his asshole friends show up. They start causing commotions. They encounter Popeye at one point. The bald one, he gets rendered right away. Popeye gets a hold of his skull, partially crushed, drops him to the ground. What was the other one? Terry? We see Terry get his wrist broken in half. Second time in the film that happens.
That's right.
I'm going to
Steven
say this. I'm trying to avoid being racist here, but I think, was it the bodyguard that had his wrist broken first, right? Like he bent it back.
No, he broke. I think he broke 3 wrists in this movie. Tore off an arm.
Or maybe it was one of the drug dealers.
Yeah, it was one of the drug dealers at the beginning.
Well, here's why I'm asking, because we see basically it's a close-up of a forearm. The wrist gets bent back. We see a bone stick out and then blood spurting. When he kills or doesn't kill Terry, he does the exact same thing. I'm wondering if it wasn't the exact same arm, but then they just put makeup on it to make it for a person of color, which Terry was. Because it looked like almost these same identical effects. Same close-up, same angle, wrist, blood spurt. I'm going to go on a limb and say they reused that special effect. And if you think I'm being racist, you can send all correspondence to Paul at klrn.com.
Paul at brad.com.
That's my call. That's my call. I think they repurposed some of their practical effects. But hey,
But give them credit for using all practical effects. In fact, they were so proud of using all of their practical effects in this movie and no CG that that's what the producer, Jeff Miller, said that he was most proud of. There was that they were focused on using practical effects instead of CG for the gore, and I give them credit for that. I mean, they wanted it. I mean, all of Popeye's arms and his face, as ridiculous as his face looked, everything was at least in the proper proportions to his arms. So give him credit on that.
Yeah, I know you're bugged by his face, but I liked it. They gave him the cartoonish effect. He's got the protruding chin, extended eyebrow area, forced skull and such. And he's got a nice scar running down one of the eyes. I dug it. I'm there. I'm on board with it.
Now, he never leaves the cannery, but then he chases down the two best friend thugs outside of the cannery. Well, he chases down the black guy outside the cannery and kills him there. Remember that?
Right.
And then walks back into the cannery. So either he's haunted, he's either cursed and not able to leave the cannery, or he isn't cursed and can leave the cannery. Which one is it? Can he just?
Well, there's another plot hole here, though, because
maybe he's wearing like one of those ankle bracelets that's trapped by a geofence.
I'm just gonna go with he knows the cannery so well. He has all of the exit points memorized. Because I'm trying to help the production here. I'm desperate on their part, because what happened is Terry has the gun. They had a gun the whole time and never thought to use it on the bad guy. Well, he draws it on Popeye. That's when Popeye breaks his wrist. Gun goes flying elsewhere. Terry runs away, escapes, and then takes the time to lock the door. He puts the chain and the lock back on as he's running away, but then Popeye gets out. So he has to have another exit point. I'm trying to pass over there.
The place has to be filled with exit points. It's an abandoned factory.
Right, except when our two stars try to escape, oh my gosh, the door's locked. What can we do? This factory covers an entire acre. There's no possible way to get out of this place. Break a window. I mean, from what I understand, the place has been closed for 20 years. No one's going to be bothered by that, but doesn't dawn on our filmmaker to do so. But yeah, he chases Terry outside. And of course, it's a spinach factory. What's laying right there outside but a 10-foot tall anchor?
Yep.
I mean, naturally, those exist in closed down spinach factories. I get it. Yeah, they're close to the wharf and the docks and all that. But why the hell would there be an anchor at the factory of produce?
Well, look here.
It's there.
I I took off points for him not saying anchors away and then smashing him in the face. That was a good time to do something of that nature.
Could have been. Yeah, there should have been a tagline on this kill. There wasn't though. But he gets the drop on Terry and then literally drops the anchor on his neck. Severs the neck to the point that he's nearly rendered, but then we see a cut shot to Popeye bringing the anchor back up and bringing it back down, but we don't see the effects. Cheapened out a little bit on that one, but an anchor of that size being hefted and thrown down, I'm pretty sure the guy died from it. I'm not a doctor, but I'm going to go on a limb and say, yeah, that probably did it. So he was taken care of. Now we go back inside. Of the asshole trio, only Joey is still alive now. So he's
and I think he's still
done.
And isn't he still concerned about his blonde girlfriend sleeping with the other guy? Isn't he like he says makes a comment of that nature?
Well, that was the whole purpose of them going to the factory. They were sure that Dexter and her were sleeping together. And yet, once he's in the factory, he really doesn't care too much about his girlfriend, to the extent he ends up shooting her by accident. Okay, I'll give him that. Could have happened in a state of panic. Like he's hitting around the corner and he hears somebody walking up and he spins around and opens fire and hits her.
That's right. He shoots her like in the stomach or something.
Yeah, right, like just above the hip maybe. And she collapses against the wall. She's in pain, writhing, calling out. And he's just like, wow, I'm so sorry I shot you. Oh, well. And he just takes off. Oh, she's dead, is his announcement. It's like, I don't think so, Joey. You really just winged her. You don't give a damn about this woman, do you? So he goes looking for Popeye now. He just has to kill the guy. Okay. Next, we haven't really talked about Seth and Katie too much, so let's go to see what they're up to.
I would consider Seth and Katie to be the most useless death scenes in the film.
Well, they are for a very particular reason. They weren't killed. They died, but not because of Popeye, but because they're stupid.
So even I would say that she was more stupid than him.
I'm gonna say it's a push. Either way, I think they're both pretty stupid because.
But what was she even leaning towards when she falls off the railing? What's she trying to grab?
Well, the thing is, they're on a gangplank and they see an exit door like 30 feet away or 20 feet, maybe closer, on another gangplank. And they say, we have to get over there so we can get out because there's an exit sign. Okay, but why can't you just go downstairs, go across, go back upstairs and get out? They don't explain that part. It's like the floor was lava or something. So we have this dramatic scene where Seth gets out on the railing and he reaches out for the other one and he's just short, just shy, just miss. Oh, and then he drops 20 feet or so onto a platform and his leg gets caught up in a fishing net. Because that's what's inside a spinach factory, isn't it? Fishing nets.
Why is this?
So,
like, why is that spinach factory even on the river?
Property value is my guess. I don't. And I get it. He's the sailor man, so you need sailor elements, but they don't match up to a factory that's canning vegetables. Why is there an anchor? Why is there a fishing net inside the factory? So he's on his back, still alive, but his foot is up on a 45-degree angle, tied up in a fishing net. untangling that 1 foot is beyond his skill set. And as he's writhing and such, the top of the net is about 10 feet higher and propped down by rebar, loose rebar. And as he writhes to free himself, the rebar comes closer and closer to the edge, and eventually it does fall down and impale him and kill him. Stupid. The entire thing is like, he can look up and see the rebar if he paid attention, but clearly didn't and died because of ignorance, I think.
Yeah, but it's not
So,
as
not a
it's
kill.
but it's not as stupid as the next death.
Well, so she comes down to where he landed to try to help him out and then realizes, well, he's a goner. So if she's able to come all the way down, they could have done that initially and he would not have died. But then she leaves him and goes right back to the same platform they were on, not the one that they were trying to get to. And then she tries to get to it. And of course, while she's going through this, Popeye comes looming up. She tries to run away, falls off the railing right onto Seth, and she too is now impaled on the same rebar. So it looks like they died while making love, but they both have their clothes on. I don't even know what's going on in the movie anymore.
And they never show her what she's reaching for.
She's
just reaching off screen, but they never show her like she's reaching for a rope or a hook or a chain or something to grab and swing down on. Like none of that. She just, next thing you know, she's just impaled. You know, they're gonna, sure, it's like COVID. They're gonna credit the Popeye for killing him, but we know it was really pneumonia that did it.
Yeah, I mean,
or a car wreck. That's a better analogy. It was a car wreck that killed him, but they're going to give Popeye the credit.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of times, you know, when they rate horror movies, they'll say, how many killed? Well, I'm sorry. You got to take these two off, not kills. He didn't kill them. They died from stupidity. But this brings up another point in this film you probably noticed, is that when they find the dead bodyguard, for instance, and then when they find their two friends, nobody reacts to a dead body that they encounter as if they had just encountered a dead body. Like, they walk up and are like, oh, apparently somebody has perished at this particular location. How about that?
That's terrible.
And then they move on. It's like fiddlesticks. Something's amiss inside this guy. That's about the most reaction you get. So Dexter sees his two friends. The blonde was ostensibly his best friend. That's the way they set this up in the movie. And he sees this, he's like, huh, I should get my camera out and film this. And
yes,
he does. And he's not like, oh my God, my best friend is dead. Oh my God, Seth is dead. He's like, this is going to go on film. I need this for my movie. I should get this. I'm going to get it in frame. And I think he even explains to Olivia something like it has some bearing on the factory controversy or something. This is just more proof that this factory's corrupt. I have to get this on. That's his reaction to his two best friends dead. Okay.
He doesn't seem like a very good friend, Brad.
They're merely props in his Hollywood dream, Paul.
It's got to get
that's dedicated to the director.
Cans isn't going to make the movie itself. He's got to do it for him.
Yep. I mean, a lot of people don't want to know how the sausage is made, but here you go. This is what it takes to make a Sundance quality documentary. Your friends died. Make sure you get it in frame. Focus.
Right. We need more lighting.
Well, we got to get to a climax somehow now because Popeye has kind of been diminished.
Giggity, giggity. Giggity goo.
People are dying now without Popeye's help. I'm losing faith in this guy as a serial killer. But our two intrepid filmmakers leave their friends now, and they find Popeye's lair inside the factory.
And there's extra shirts. Like I guess the ghost does both does laundry and needs to replace his wardrobe from time to time. There's like extra giant shirts hanging up on hangers.
He's got like 3 or 4 different uniforms he could wear. I mean, hey, you're tunneling around a factory that you don't know where, despite knowing every exit in the place, you don't know where the on-off switch is. I don't know how he's doing laundry, though.
There's also, when he sits down, he takes his hat off like he's going to rest for a while to eat a green can, like a can of glowing spinach. Then he puts his hat back on, and that's it. Like, what was the point of that?
I'm going to say to humanize him. I'm guessing.
Yes.
I'm stretching here. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, this is the scene where we find out that that's his daughter. So it's possible that's what they're doing.
Yeah, this, when I said this is a crucial scene, they basically tie every conceivable loose end of the script in this one scene. So they're in his lair. It's kind of candle lit or lantern lit. I don't know, but we find a lot of the prototypical things needed to tie a script together. Old newspaper headlines. Yep. So when the factory was about to go under, it was all because of an internal whistleblower that was going to blow the lid off of the scandal inside the spinach factory that was about to poison the population. And then they conveniently find out that the owner of the spinach factory was also the owner of the newspaper where the whistleblower went to, and owns half the town, and happens to be the guy in the necktie looking to repurchase the factory. If I have this straight. So
sounds right.
Here's a question, and I'm going to bring it up only because of my extensive knowledge of covering the media for the last few years. If the guy that owns the factory was about to be exposed by a whistleblower who went to his newspaper, why would they print this story to begin with? Like, big scandal, tainted spinach at the canning factory. We see the headlines. If he owns the newspaper, that never would have gotten into print. Just saying.
Somebody was trying to, it was a rival paper.
Was that what it? Maybe one of those tabloid weeklies, that are always muckraking and causing trouble for people.
Correct. That's what I'm going with. Because your way doesn't make any sense, so I'm going to go with the way that maybe should make sense a little bit.
Well, it's because their dialogue makes no sense. It's like, oh, he owns a newspaper. They buried the story. No, I'm looking at headlines. It says the story. It's the opposite of burying it. It's actually broadcasting the story. But okay. So the whistleblower has turned up missing. By the way, we happen to know who the whistleblower is because among all of the headlines that have been saved by Popeye is the whistleblower's ID card. Olive oil. It's all starting to come together now, Paul.
Well, and this scene is a little bit important too because they put some Easter eggs in here. I don't know if you caught them. Did you catch them?
Probably not, only because I was on the road. But go ahead.
So there's 2 Easter eggs here. One is pretty obvious. There's that little table set up for like where she would play as a child or something, and there's a Winnie the Pooh doll sitting there.
Right.
So Winnie the Pooh. So they're going back to the IPs. They're paying homage to the IPs that they're pulling out and that are now public domain. But there's a doll. There's a doll sitting right next to it, and I could not figure out what that doll was in reference to because the camera lingers on the doll in Winnie the Pooh.
Right.
So if it's lingering there, it's for a reason. Turns out that is the doll from a TV series called Dark Corners Horror Anthology. Her name is Dark Padre. And the show stars the realtor. She's in it. It stars yeah, and it was written by Robert Michael Ryan, who is also the guy that directed the film. So he grabbed that creepy doll from this show that he did in 2015 and decided to add it in.
So it's a self-referential Easter egg.
Self-referential Easter egg, sure is. But it took me forever to figure it out. I didn't notice it until I was clicking around on IMDb and saw that same doll, and I'm like, oh, there it is. This is the why. He tied it back in to something that he was already related to. It meant something to him. This is his Sam Raimi moment. Yes. With the car, with the car, the big yellow car.
You doing the research. I appreciate that much. I saw the scene, but there was no way I was going to pick up on all that. So good on you. Well, we're starting to piece everything together, and now to just join everything with Gorilla Glue. There's a photograph of the whistleblower, Olive Oyl, with a very young girl. And this is when Olivia says to Dexter, "Do you think she's pretty?" And Dexter says, "Well, she is, but nowhere near as pretty as you." Smooth talker that he is, satin-tongued devil. You go, Dexter. Damn it, you're locking this in, buddy. Well done on your part.
That's why he gets all the chicks.
Or his first chick. But
goes down smoother than a can of radioactive spinach.
The very non-subtle aspect of this is that the mother in that photograph is basically Olivia. Looks exactly like her. So this is Olivia asking him if he thinks her own mother is pretty without telling him that's the case. For whatever reason. I don't know why she wouldn't tell him. Like, why is that a secret at this point? You're in a factory where your father is killing people. Maybe it's crucial to start letting your friends in on the fact that you're related to the guy doing this. I mean, of course, this is why she went to the factory. This was her whole motivation to join. But I don't know why she'd want to keep all this a secret from them, because she wanted to find a guy. The guy's roaming the factory. Go confront, talk to him, say something to him. She doesn't. She doesn't do that. She doesn't tell Dexter what's going down. Not until Popeye gets the drop on Dexter himself. So they open a door. They try to escape. There's Popeye. Ta-da. Grabs Dexter, lifts him up, breaks his wrist, third one of the film, and is about to end it all. But Olivia just says to him, "Hey, stop it, put him down." And then Popeye puts him down.
Just literally puts him down, yeah.
Now, you would be correct in thinking, wait a second, something's going on here. However, despite the fact that Popeye listened to her, he doesn't acknowledge anything further. Like, there's no other interchange between them. He puts Dexter down. Olivia helps him escape, and they get away. And they're still trying to find their way out of the factory at this point. And Dexter's like, "Okay, I got a question. Here's the thing. Why did he listen to you? That was curious. Something's amiss. What's going on?" And only now does she kind of reveal it, because Popeye returns. Joey comes and tries to shoot him. And that's when
he ends up stabbing him, doesn't he?
Joey. Well, one of the guys, I think the bald guy stabbed him initially, but then he did shoot Popeye, but not effectively. And then Popeye's like, well, that's it. I have to make you into dog food. And that's when Olivia says, no, stop it. Don't, Daddy. Oh my, like this is supposed to be that like twist moment, the M. Night Shyamalan moment, except we figured all this out already. We yeah, Olivia, yeah, we get it. Olive, Olivia, but he then freezes and he turns to her and he's like, Sweet pea. Of course it is. She's Sweet Pea from the Popeye cartoons. You get it? That's what's going on. I
did not even catch that. I did not. Wow.
They made that very veiled, Paul, so it's easy for you to overlook these things that they telegraphed with lasers and glitter.
I missed that entirely. I'm just going to sign off. You finish your show.
You can be forgiven at this point because the movie does kind of beat the senses out of people. It's just like this point, you're just like, what? I'm trying to figure out what's going on, but I'm trying to absorb and what they're alluding to with Popeye stuff and the things. It's like, wait, what? And this is where it gets more perplexing. She tells Dexter, like, no, that's it. There will be no more deaths today. Apparently she's met her quota. She's okay with 9 or 8 deaths, I think it was at this point. And yet we still see Popeye end up killing Joey after all. And she's there to watch it. It wasn't like she was trying to save Joey's life or anything. It's like, no, there's no more deaths. Okay, after him, there's no more deaths. Because then it would involve me and I can't be part of it. And then they kind of get out of the factory and then the police show up because, of course, before all this, nobody has cell signal inside the factory. Got to have that trope. But who called the police? Like, what brought the cops and ambulance out?
And nobody called him at all, right?
I don't recall anybody making that move. And then, for no reason whatsoever, while they're outside, Katie, the redhead who got shot by Joey, she shows up. Hey, guys, I'm actually alive. It's like, wow.
And he was a bad shot. She's like, he missed all the important stuff. He's a really bad shot.
But she was like slamming him. She's like, he's always been horrible at this. Yes. He's never been a good shot. It's like, well,
she
did
he make shot in the stomach? She was shot in the stomach. Has very little blood. There's very little blood on her shirt.
But she's making fun of the guy because he didn't shoot her properly, and then asks if Joey's okay, and they're like, "Oh yeah, about that. He didn't make it. No, he's no." And she has the exact same reaction as everybody else that has encountered a dead body. She's like, "Oh, is Dunkin' Donuts still open? Do you think?" Or is that like nobody cares? Anybody has died. Nobody gives a damn. This is really just
then
a
they
bizarre
kind of just
ending.
like wander off, right? I don't think they knew what to do.
Well,
they weren't sure how to wrap it up.
Before, there's like the police chief shows up and he acts with all this importance as if he's been a major figure in the entire film. It's like, who the hell are you? He's like, okay, so I'm here now, and here's what's going down. We got the whole place perimeter saying we have tracked him down by the warp, so we've got that perimeter sealed off. And then another officer comes up and talks to her, and he's like, so everything is clear inside. She's like, well, yeah, except for the 9 deaths that have taken place. Well, of course with that, but still. And he acts like he's been there from scene 1. This is the first time we've laid eyes on this guy. We're like, okay, that's it. Well, he's no longer in the factory. It's all cleared out. And then the 2 stars look up in a window, and there's Popeye staring out of it. and then he just fades away.
And that's what I'm saying. This would have been a much better movie had they just told us how he became Popeye the Slayer, and then the next two are like years later, kind of like what is it? What's that movie? Jeepers Creepers, right? You first learn about him, and then every 72 years the cicadas come out, and Jeepers Creepers does too.
Yeah, and they even tried to sell the legend that the whole reason he haunts the factory is because the love of his life is missing and he's always in search of her. And it turns out it's olive oil because she was the whistleblower, and everybody thinks she was killed by the factory owners to hide her whistleblowing. But they don't really tie that together either. Like, is she still alive? Is there a possibility of a sequel where he looks for her? Nothing. We don't get any indication of that sort. Just him in a window, and then he disappears from the window. So is he a ghost? Is this a mystery? Did he leave on his own accord? What's going on? Doesn't matter.
Like, how do you not include Bluto in this? How is Bluto not the realtor, or not but the real estate guy that wants to tear it all down? How is his name not Bluto? Like, that's just such an easy layup.
And how about this? What if the real estate agent was Wimpy, who wanted to open a hamburger stand?
See what I'm saying?
That's why he wanted to reopen the factory.
Much better.
This is why, and that's why Popeye will be upset now, because they want to reconstitute the factory into something else and take away the spinach and process meat there instead. Or there's a few missed opportunities here, guys. We could have done better. Could have done better is all I'm saying. But I think that stands for just about every single movie we do on this show.
That's true.
So I'm not really saying what I will say this. I'll recommend it. I like it. I'm going to tell people, go check this out. It's a curious spin on the Popeye legend. And there is some skill involved here. This is not the Winnie the Pooh horror movie. This is better.
I've never seen the Winnie the Pooh.
Not saying much, admittedly, but I'll just say this. My one word review, don't.
Don't.
Not missing
it. It's really not worth it.
Yeah. It's just like low budget. It's like, hey, we got the rights to this, or well, the rights are available, so we're going to do this. And it's like, wow.
Hey, Brad,
that was a pretty good by the hour
impression. Just saying.
Unintentional. I see what you did there, Jack. Well done. So like I said, we've had this on the radar for a while. I've been looking for the release date. It was always like this spring, sometime in the spring. Well, it just came out this past week. It's available on Prime. It's a $6 rental. Probably going to go down in price in a few months if you want to wait for it, but I think it's fun. I think it's worthwhile. You get to see Popeye in life-size, real-life fashion, and he's killing people. What more do you want? But Paul, I take it you didn't care for it.
No, this one didn't hit it. Didn't hit it right for me.
Didn't fit. So it's a split review. It's one of those Siskel and Ebert reviews this week.
Right. Yep. Not for this one.
I'm just going to have to take the role of Siskel here, where he gets argumentative with Roger, and he's just like, "How could you say that?" I used to love when those two would badger each other up in the balcony, but made for fun shows. I hope this was all right. That's going to do it for us. Popeye the Slayer, man. A mixed review. 1 thumbs up, 1 thumbs down, but govern yourselves accordingly. How about that? So, Paul, why don't you let everybody know, where can they find more of your content?
You find me on Zitter at Movie Paul. And 2 weeks from now on right here on this channel. Talking about something stupid. Some stupid movie.
There you go. How about that for a teaser? In a fortnight, more of Paul. As for myself, you can see me daily over at townhall.com. I've got a media column there that's called Rift from the headlines, where I basically do this, but with the press. I'm also on the front page of Red State on a near daily basis, where I've got a twice weekly podcast called Liable Sources, going a little bit further into the swamp media and the problems that they bring with it. And you can hear more of me on this. Next Thursday, I'm going to be here recording. I will use all the vital entertainment information that you need on culture shift. And every Tuesday evening, I'm here with the other episode of the line where we bring diversion, relaxation, leisure, culture, drinking, of course, or you name it, whatever it is to discuss from political maelstrom. We try to bring a little frivolity into your life that way. And if you need more of me than that, let's face it, you do. If you head over to Zitter, I'm at Martini Shark. All right, Paul, you and I got a fortnight in front of us to come up with another offering for our dear audience members here. Something we can infect upon them.
I'm sure we'll find something worthwhile. And it's not going to have the same kind of music video that goes with this one, though. The realtor's singing in this movie.
Sadly, no, they can't all. Oh, is that her?
Yeah, that's her.
I didn't know that. Didn't recognize her as such. I mean, I saw the video, but I didn't know it was her. How about that? More interest, more of a tie-in. How about that? All right. Well, we're going to do that. We're going to work diligently in the next couple of weeks to come up with some other subpar entertainment and then bring it here for you on Disasters in the Making.